I want to talk about the NFL and Paul George, who for a moment there stood out as one of the top 10 guys in the league, but you probably never thought Paul George in a generation or two would still be a guy who people are still singing songs about. And as far as that goes in pro football, I was trying to think of who are the guys right now that are not QBs in the QB league that sort of fit that description of that they'll be touchstones, 20 years from now, that you'll be like, blank player reminds me of this great force that I watched, a couple, 20 years or so ago. I was thinking about, to answer my own question, like to sort of get the ball rolling, like Derrick Henry would be one of those guys to me, or Saquon Barkley would be one of those guys as they stand right now. I think they're remembered beyond, like, yeah, they had a few really good years there. Like, they are not just Hall of Famers, but buzzed about, as I say, guys who you sort of compare others to and sort of still hold up, like we do Earl Campbell or Walter Payton, 40 years after the fact. How say you?
Well, of the current crop, Henry and Barkley, even though they're maintaining an incredibly high level, I think you could probably say their best years are in the bank, right? They've had their best years. The guy that I think is poised to join that club is Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, he still hasn't really been turned loose by design. Obviously, they don't want him to have 380 touches so that he can have the long career. But Jahmyr Gibbs strikes me as somebody who is going to put up huge numbers in his prime, but then will age into a third down back very gracefully. Like, I think that guy's going to be breaking ankles into his 30s if he's taken care of. But obviously, even in that blowout loss to the Commanders, they had no answer for Jahmyr Gibbs. The only answer for Jahmyr Gibbs was, we're going to give the ball to David Montgomery. Oh, thank Christ. Oh, thank God, because we're just chasing Gibbs and we can't catch him.
That's a fun call, man. Right out of the gate to go with someone a little off the board, in my opinion, with Gibbs, but obviously identifying the guys who are early in their career and projecting them out to be icons a quarter century from now is tougher to do. Yeah, like I to just give you my list real quick and then get into the bigger part of it is, I have TJ Watt on there, Tyreek Hill, maybe Jalen Ramsey, Myles Garrett, Jamar Chase, Micah Parsons, CMC, probably Fred Warner, Patrick Surtain, maybe Dexter Lawrence and or Quinnen Williams, Justin Jefferson, certainly, the two running backs I mentioned, and Mike Evans. That might be my list. But then the larger question is, because I'm fascinated by the idea of, we're watching another chapter in sports history be written with each passing sports year. And, the notion, the Nike ad campaign about early in LeBron's career about, like, we're witnesses, I thought was genius stuff, because we want to be able to claim, we want to be around for interesting times, but for consequential times, in a good way, at least in sports. That's what's good about sports, is usually the consequence isn't grave stuff. But we want to be able to say, I saw the best there ever was. How true is that in pro football? Are Saquon and or Derrick Henry, or even Jahmyr Gibbs, if you want to project ahead, do any of those guys sort of land ultimately on the level of, probably not Walter Payton, but Eric Dickerson, Tony Dorsett, Earl Campbell? Do any of those guys rise to that level to be all-time greats at the position?
Well, I mean, Saquon, I don't know where he'll land ultimately, but I don't think anybody with the eyeball test will ever say there was a more explosive running back than Saquon Barkley. Like, I mean, the guy gets those tree trunks moving and gets onto the second level. And, like, has there ever been a running back where you knew he was gone as quickly as Saquon? Where you're like, he kind of gets a seam and you're like, well, he's a yard and a half past the line of scrimmage. There are still defenders. It's like, no, he's at 20 miles an hour and that guy has a bad angle. and he's gone. I mean,
not guys that cut that figure, at least, like Chris Johnson, maybe, and who else would maybe fit that description? Yeah, slider guys, maybe Jimmy
I mean,
or
the
Gibbs,
crazy
but
thing
not
is, like,
someone
so
who's sturdy
Saquon
like that.
gets that angle, like, and you're like, oh, we know he's gone. Derrick
Right.
Henry gets into the open field, and even still, we're like, well, there are 7 guys who are faster than him that are going to, like, no, there aren't. No, this freight train is faster than the DB who's chasing him. It's still insane when he looks up at the jumbotron in his rear view. The guy's not gaining on him. I don't understand the physics of it.
It does feel like he's not even at full speed when he's 10 yards deep into the defensive backfield, and then he accelerates from there. Yeah, I guess Jamal Charles would be another one, though, but he's not right. Saquon looks sturdier. He looks like he weighs 25 pounds extra than those burners did. How about edge rusher? TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons is a, do it all kind of defender, move around type of guy. Do any of those guys rise to the level of Lawrence Taylor, let's say, among edge rushers, great dominant pass rushers that we've seen?
Well, did TJ Watt play for the Steelers the last 6 games of the season? Because I don't remember his name being called on the broadcast.
Listen, we can talk about Aaron Rodgers too at any point during this exchange here. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Why does TJ Watt want to be a part of this at this point? If you agree, unless you are delusional, which Aaron Rodgers might be, although I think he's cagey enough to know that there's not a Super Bowl run in him, but he also probably is imbued with more self-confidence than the rest of us are confident in him. But I think Mike Tomlin maybe thinks it. But outside of those two, nobody thinks that the Steelers are going to the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. So then that means that they're going to draft a QB, and no rookie QB has ever taken his team to a Super Bowl. So the earliest available window for TJ Watt to reasonably make a Super Bowl run, and that's being optimistic that the Steelers get the right guy, and in his rookie year, the QB comes along, and then in his sophomore year, they're ready to make a run. TJ Watt's 33 at that point, and to your point, he appears to be fading already. Why wouldn't his thing be right now outside of some sort of like sense of comfort? And I know I like the team and I like where I live in the city and all of that kind of stuff. Why wouldn't you want to move on to a different thing? Because there ain't no Super Bowl run coming in the next couple of years, right?
Well, I mean, the crazy thing about the Steelers as constructed, it's like, okay, so they do this kind of log rolling where it's like, okay, keep the log moving, keep spinning. Don't fall into the water. If we can sneak into the playoffs, we'll keep this mediocrity going. We can just keep it going forever. And you're like, okay, that's really not that desirable. I don't think most fan bases are like, let's be above 500 and squeak into the playoffs and lose. Yay, we did it again. So then you're like, okay, there are 2 other results. One is that
if you were the Jets, you would sign off on that. If you were a Jets fan 5 years ago, you would love that. It's gotten stale, obviously, to be a Pittsburgh Steelers fan with that result happening over and over again.
So the log is spinning. You're like, okay, well, as currently constructed, could we pull this off again? Maybe 9-8 gets us in the playoffs, maybe 10-7. But the other 2 possibilities are you wipe out, you go 4-13, which everybody does eventually. Or you step off the log and walk on water to the promised land of a Super Bowl championship. And so you're like, okay, of these 3 results, like Aaron Rodgers arrives, he's on the log. 2 of the possible results are bad. Spinning the log for another season of not getting anywhere, or wiping out and doing what the Jets did last year, which is losing a shitload of games and not going anywhere. And then the third one of Aaron Rodgers leading you to the promised land is a fantasy. It's an impossibility. So the Steelers, like, why would TJ Watt want to be a part of it? Why would anyone want to be a part of it? It's like, it's not sustainable. You're not moving toward anything. Your ceiling is another, oh my God, we pulled it off we won a 13-10 game in the snow and made it into the playoffs. Who gives a shit? You're in a division with Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. You're not. So I mean, I think the Steelers should not go with Aaron Rodgers. It's hard, even though the Patriots did it very well last year, obviously, though it didn't get them the pick they wanted necessarily. But, there you can start Jacoby Brissett or Mason Rudolph at quarterback and get a good draft pick. There is a strategy for this.
That's right. And right. We've talked about it. The Steelers will always try to fuel the jet at 30,000 feet. But this era, they're in a weird spot now where they've announced that their intent is they've made it very clear. The intent is to get a QB in 2026. So if that's the transition that you are leaning into, then Aaron Rodgers makes zero GD sense. It really does. And then once you chicken or the egg, TJ Watt makes no sense either. TJ Watt should be gone, and then Aaron Rodgers should say, what do I want to be a part of this for? Or vice versa. The other thing that we haven't really considered, I think it's fascinating, and you talk about the log, which then reminds me of Terry Bradshaw saying that Aaron Rodgers should go eat bark in California and whisper to the gods. I'm not sure what that means, except that I don't think Terry Bradshaw's going to loan out the number 12 to Aaron Rodgers if he wears it in black and gold. But so you have this old man saying that, but also you have the newest Steeler of them all, Darius Slay, saying into a microphone this week, like, hey, I have a lot going on in my personal life, but I feel like I have to make some sacrifices because this is where championship teams are built. Is Darius Slay just completely on which of those two possibilities do you think? Is Darius Slay like, egg on my face, I forgot that my new team doesn't have its starting quarterback yet. Well, boy, do I feel like a heel. Or is he saying that passive aggressively to take a shot at Aaron Rodgers and basically the entire franchise that he's just signed on to in the twilight of his career? Obviously, I think it's the latter. But this rolling embarrassment that now, because I guess OTAs are underway, it feels like Football America has picked up on more. Like, boy, this is weird. I've been paying attention to baseball and NBA, but boy, the Steelers are a mess, huh? They don't have a starting quarterback. It feels like now everybody is talking about it, and it obscures what we just said 3 minutes ago, which is the embarrassment of the waiting game for this tedious old man who isn't good at football anymore, obscures the fact that he isn't good at football anymore. What are you waiting for? What result do you have in mind that makes any of this worth it? If it were Matthew Stafford, it would be a little more palatable. If it were Josh Allen, of course, you give him all the time in the world. But all of this has worked to cover up the fact that once he does sign, it's like, oh yeah, he's not good at football anymore, and it'll be too late to do anything about it anyway, but he will be probably a tick better than their other options, which then gets me back to what I said 5 minutes ago, which is if your goal is to get the best possible quarterback in 2026, then why would you want Aaron Rodgers for 1 year? What does that get you? Zero is what it does.
Talking about A-Rod, by the way, is Tommy Maddox going to let him wear number 8? It'd be funny if every quarterback weighed in like Hanratty, can't have number 5. Well, your number's not retired, Terry. You don't get to say anyway. So
Justin Fields from New York.
Yeah.
No two for him.
Is out. So what you're going through, and obviously this delights me and Spaghetti to no end because we know how much you hate Aaron Rodgers. But so this is true for all of us, right? All of our confidence in life gets set at the peak of our powers. And obviously true for hot girls, because you'll see a woman in her decline phase with a lot of attitude. And you're like, what the fuck did she get all this attitude? Oh, you should have seen her in high school. And so
my go-to for that is Kim Cattrall in Sex and the City. Like, whoa, it doesn't work anymore. She's 52. Yeah, right. I mean, come on.
Yeah. So Aaron Rodgers, big timing, a storied franchise. Like what year do you think it is? You broken down old bag. So yeah, this is delightful for people who love to see you miserable, love to see Tomlin frustrated. It's just so perfect. And I don't know. I mean, typically it seems like a pretty well-run organization and a pretty buttoned down organization that this would be a non-starter. For most of us who understand the Steelers, like obviously not. We wouldn't even engage in this. So it's
Pittsburgh really terms. I'll stand in line to get Minio's pizza. I will not stand in line to get Domino's pizza. This is what the Steelers are doing.
Can I play devil's Dameshek for once? Because I'm gonna strike the match and light the flame here. And this is
I love it. I was waiting to get to you because I know you'll have the devil's.
This is not gonna be a pro Rodgers thing. This is more of a pro Steelers take. And the Steelers, this is an uncharacteristic thing for them to do this. And obviously, Shek, you know that better than anyone. But they're doing it because of what I'm about to say. Is they know that if Rodgers is light years ahead of Mason Rudolph, I don't care what people say about Mason Rudolph and Rodgers declining. Rodgers was better with the Jets last year than he was his last year with Green Bay, and the Jets roster was a lot worse. I think the Jets were a mess last year defensively. Offense did not go the way it was supposed to. Breece Hall was not the same player he was a few seasons ago. It was not a good season for the Jets overall, and Rodgers was okay at points, and he made a couple throws where people are like, he still has it. The Steelers know this, and the Steelers know that Mason Rudolph, it's not like if you're afraid of the tank either way with Rudolph or Rodgers, the difference is that Rodgers still has the ability to maybe somehow this team that's the most consistent team in the NFL with a coach that never goes below 500. They're like, okay, if we can kind of squeeze out the magic from Rodgers with this kind of new look offense, and hopefully the defense comes back into form, if we somehow beat the Browns are an afterthought. If we beat Burrow and the Bengals, who are dealing with some stuff right now with Hendrickson, and the Ravens had a good season last year, but if Derrick Henry falls off a cliff, you never know. And Ravens receivers never really produce. Actually, besides Zay Flowers last year, first really good season for a Ravens receiver. They're thinking if we could somehow win 10, 11 games and make everyone happy. It's May 29th. You can't make these bold predictions that we know they're going to, he's going to be bad. The Steelers are going to be bad. It's just too early to do that. You get in the dance, you never know. And I think the reason why the Steelers are accepting this is because of that. It was because Rodgers may have if he could throw 20 touchdown passes again and this defense comes back to form, and it's possible to still win the AFC North, win the division, get into the playoffs, and it's the Chiefs just lost in the Super Bowl. They're going to be the same. Kelsey's not the same player. You can start playing that game where this consistent team could actually beat other teams. And I think any Steelers fan who would be fooling themselves to say no, I'm okay. Just let Mason Rudolph try it out there and we're going to win 4 or 5 games. Also, as a fan of a team that can't even tank properly, and I'm not talking about a top 3, 4, 5 pick. I'm talking about the number 1 overall pick. It's not a given thing that you could easily do that. The Steelers could try to tank with Mason Rudolph and try to get that quarterback.
Well, I agree
and you'll
with
still
that.
end up with the pick that doesn't help your team. So I just think to me, with how good the team has been in the previous seasons with Tomlin, it's Rodgers clearly is warming up to the idea from these little weird things he's been doing, which is also bothering me. But the Steelers are look, we want to bring him in because we know that what could potentially happen if everything goes right. And I think that's what you have to do.
I hear you, but the response to that is that so much of this is couched with the idea that it would be disrespectful to the tenured vets, Watt and Hayward, to roll Mason Rudolph out there for 2025. You have to get the brand name Rodgers. What's disrespectful, as Darius Slay sort of touched on, is a guy who's I'm going through some personal stuff. I can't really talk about it. I've been clear about all the personal stuff, and I'm really football is not on my brain right now. Also, I'll see you at the Kentucky Derby. Also, I'll see you at my friend Wild Mike's Q&A session somewhere out in America, answering questions, insinuating that I'm about to sign so that I can play the Bears one more time. But I have time for those things, but I don't have time for OTAs. I don't have time for football with the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's disrespectful. That's patronizing. And that's why if I were TJ Watt, I'd be like, screw this. What are we doing? We're just taking half measures. We don't know exactly what we're up to. Witness the fact that we went out of our way to get DK Metcalf, but then we let George Pickens go. It's all a mess, and it's all suspended on the idea that Mike Tomlin knows what he's doing, which is imbued with the idea that the Pittsburgh Steelers know what they're doing. But as I keep saying, it's very much like going to see James Bond movies and being like, well, I'm going to stand by the James Bond franchise, even when James Bond is being played by Timothy Dalton. It's like, I don't have to get excited about that. I'm not going to abandon the James Bond franchise, but I'm also not going to get excited and pretend that it's up there with Goldfinger. You know what I'm saying, right, Hench? You're an old guy.
You're basically waiting to see if Andy Dalton wants to play quarterback for your franchise. Like, who gives a shit? I mean, and the problem is, I think, okay, so Peyton Manning wins that Super Bowl when he's the worst quarterback in the league, but he wins it because Von Miller is in Cam Newton's lap and that defense hands him a trophy. But hey, you deserve it for all you've accomplished. So it's like, hey, we can win a Super Bowl with an older game manager type. Then Brady goes and wins a Super Bowl for the Bucs as the best player on the field. And people are like, oh, you can be an old man at quarterback and win the Super Bowl. And I think that was part of the Jets fiasco, is like, we'll get our old man and our old man will win a Super Bowl. And it's like, the problem with both the Peyton Manning and Tom Brady examples is they were not playing in conferences with Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow. So you're starting so far down the AFC quarterback depth chart. I don't think you put Aaron Rodgers on the Justin Herbert level. Are we getting down to Tua and Bo Nix? Like, raise your hand when Aaron Rodgers is on par with a quarterback in the AFC. And it's like, it's not on the contender level. So again,
that's right.
You're waiting for a guy to see if he wants to see Egypt again or ayahuasca or fucking whatever. And if ever there was a sport where it really needs to be your sole priority, almost to the point of monomania, it's football, and particularly playing quarterback in the NFL.
It also, I don't know what goes on in Aaron Rodgers' head, but they say all the time, football people,
Aaron Rodgers,
the guys who actually played it, say, like, once you start considering retirement, you should retire, because to your point, it is not basketball. This is like, you are going to be run into at full speed by super strong, super big guys. You don't want that. If you're on the fence about wanting to do that, you should not be out there doing that. And it sure sounds like that's Aaron Rodgers' frame of mind. Doesn't sound like he wants to play, but then it all is, he's being cute with everything. It's all so tedious. It's all so disgraceful. And again, for what? Okay.
I have one more quick question. Maybe you could answer this, Shek. Why? I mean, I don't know if there has been reports from the Steelers or whatever, but like, a thing that's like kind of underreported on this whole, why is it either Rodgers or Mason Rudolph? The Giants brought in Jameis Winston, Russell Wilson, drafted Jackson Dart, and kept Tommy DeVito, for example. Like, why was there no other third? Are
you kidding me? We've talked about this for 3 months now.
But I haven't seen an answer.
They should have chased Geno Smith. They should have chased Sam Darnold.
Yeah, should have. But I'm saying, where was like, oh, they had this trade off on the table, and it felt like I haven't seen any of this.
They thought, again, the super stable, super smarter than most other teams out there. The brain trust is the difference of Tomlin and Khan. Again, the same duo that thought they had Brandon Ayuk on the way all through last offseason until he worked them to get a better deal with the Niners, are the same. That's the same group who thought, Justin Fields will come back. Like, come on, what's he going to do? Go to the Jets? Please, come on, we're the Steelers. Again, the mystique of the Steelers exists in their heads and in my head, because I'm an old weirdo. 25-year-olds don't give a crap. Danny Dimes was out there. They could have taken Danny Dimes. The answer was two very different cats, but Justin Fields on one side, and if Geno Smith was out there for a 2-year option, then the Steelers should have done that. Nope, they didn't do either one of them, and now they're stuck chasing Aaron Rodgers and out of a sense of dignity. Also, it's weird if you're Aaron Rodgers. If Terry Bradshaw and one of your new teammates, at least Darius Slay, is making it publicly clear, like, we don't want him around here, I mean, I'm vain enough that would get in my way. That would bum me out to the point and be like, maybe I shouldn't go. No one wants me there. I don't know if that's something that Aaron Rodgers considers, but I do wonder his little small group of handlers who watches all the news that people say about him. I wonder if they feed back to him like, Aaron, you waited too long, and people in Pittsburgh are pissed about this now.
Well, here's a fun little tidbit just to add to your misery, Shek, as you contemplate this possibility, this reality, maybe this inevitability of Aaron Rodgers being your quarterback. I just was curious. So he's going to turn 42 in December. Okay. 2 days before he turns 42, Steelers host the Bills. 2 days before he turns 42. 5 days after he turns 42, at the Ravens. So the 2 games sandwiching his 42nd birthday, which may require him to go to Europe or China. We don't know how he's been planning on celebrating his 42nd birthday. 42 is an important number in his Zoroastrianism religion. But so you're going to go Josh Allen, turn 42, Lamar Jackson. How is this going to go?
Oh, man, you're 3 months too late. It's going to be the come to Jesus is going to be week 1 at the Jets. If they lose at the Jets, if Aaron Rodgers loses to Justin Fields, the wheels are off, and that's that, unless they go on an improbable win streak. And it's either week 4 or 5. Wait, their bye is in week 5. So I forget if it's the week before the bye or the week after. They catch the Browns. What if Kenny Pickett's the starter and beats them then? I mean, also, what if Joe Flacco beats them? What if Shedeur Sanders beats them? They could have had any of those guys and chose not to have them. It's going to be a black eye for Mike Tomlin on any of those counts, and same as Justin Fields. And what if George Pickens goes down there and proves to be the difference maker in Big D? Another black eye for Mike Tomlin. This is what, as you understand this, you guys are big baseball guys and root for contenders. So you know that the Pittsburgh Pirates fan of the 21st century has a weird thing every October, which is watching our former starting pitchers dominate in the postseason. The list is long. I think it starts with Jason Schmidt, and runs up to Garrett Cole, and soon Paul Skeens. And
I must have missed that Garrett Cole domination. I remember him not covering first.
Okay, right. Okay, but and now Pittsburgh Penguins fans get to watch guys like these guys. The Penguins can't contend with these kind of guys on their roster in their top 6, like Evan Rodriguez, top 6 guy for the dynasty in waiting, the Florida Panthers. He's not going to. Mikael Granlund, who was a bum, now he's getting big minutes for the Dallas Stars and so on. Cody Ceci, Kapanen, with all those guys weren't worth. Now that's what the Steelers fan. That's what 2025 is going to be. Is like if you're a diehard and you love Mike Tomlin and the approach, then you need to root hard against George Pickens and Justin Fields and Shedeur Sanders and Jackson Dart and all those guys who they let go because they knew better. They didn't need any of those guys to do it. That's the experience upcoming here.
Do you think Rodgers will be buoyed a little bit in week 1 by that warm reception he's going to get from Jets fans? They must be welcome back, champ.
Does he bring the American flag back?
Oh my God.
Does he do that again? I wonder. Boy, that's what a moment. What a moment that's going to be for him. I wonder if that's too much for him. Does that make him want to come back more to play the Jets, to try and stick it to them? That seems to be his wiring. Or does he understand where he is at this point in his life and be like, this could get real embarrassing? Because that would be my frame of mind. Like, I don't want to deal with the shame of getting housed by Justin Fields.
I don't think he get booed for what it's worth in MetLife. I don't think I think
really?
he has. Yeah, I really don't think. I don't get that vibe just from stuff I've read, just from people like just beat reporters covering him, even just what the local, sports media folks say, even just simply just Jets fans I know, like there's no animosity towards Rodgers. It was more of just like, yeah, we tried it again. Like, it's the same thing with, bringing in Favre and bringing in, like, and then it just like, it kind of feels like it may work. There's a lot of hype and then just everything goes wrong. And then I'm sure Rodgers hates a lot of people in the Jets organization, but I don't think there was no like Rodgers failure on his part. I think it was just like everything went horribly
It is
wrong.
funny, well, because the stink on the Jets precedes Aaron Rodgers' arrival. The Steelers are a proud franchise, so you feel like, well, this is unbecoming of them. The Jets is like, yep, the Jets put the Jets stink on Rodgers, not the other way around. You're probably right about that. Okay,
But I would disagree if the premise is that Rodgers is going to a better situation than Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, and Devontae Adams. I would disagree. I don't like. I did think, for the few weeks that we were contemplating Pickens and Metcalf, I thought that was intriguing because of the problems they each present physically, but that's not the case anymore.
Well, no, Omar Khan said into a microphone, knowing that there was a microphone there, he said, no, we're trying to win a championship this year, which if that's true, then now we're talking Paula Abdul kind of stuff. Like, oh, so you're not on drugs. You're just crazy. You're just naturally crazy. You're chasing a championship. You wouldn't have traded George Pickens if that were the case. Pat Surtain is the corner of the day right now. Doesn't compare with Deion Sanders or Darrelle Revis or Rod Woodson, probably. Jalen Ramsey might be in that conversation, Sauce Gardner. Wide receivers, I find this is, you would assume the best version of football players we've ever seen because we're in 2025 and the human beings have advanced, you would assume, over our predecessors. Obviously, don't pay attention to anything going on in the world because that would undermine me saying that. But wide receiver, Justin Jefferson, maybe AJ Brown, maybe Tyreek Hill. Nobody compares with Jerry Rice or Randy Moss or those guys. And then it makes me think of this. And I texted you this last night, and then Hench came back, shot back, and now I have to bring it up here. Who is the best? Eddie Spaghetti, I'm going to start with you because I know where Hench goes.
Mm-hmm.
It's the QB league. The conversation of who the best is over the last quarter century, it all revolves around quarterback now. You might want to put Aaron Donald's name in there to be cute, but no one would buy that. It's, Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes. Who's the best football player of the 21st century? Who's the best non-QB of at least the Super Bowl era, in your opinion?
I mean, for me, you probably know where I'm going to go with this answer, and I will say Lawrence.
I don't know where you're going to go with this.
Really?
How would I know where you're going to go with this?
I'm a Giants fan. I mean, I think it's Lawrence Taylor. He kind of changed the game how it is today, like where you have to have that pass blocker to stop the pass rusher. You have to have the left tackle, quarterback's blind side. I think if you're answering, like, he also impacted the game and how they schemed offense, like against him, and making like sacks a stat or whatever. So it's like he changed. He was a revolutionary player. I think you have to go with him. Obviously, there are players who are supremely talented and very, very good, but there's nowhere like way to quantify it. Like if somebody said like Anthony Munoz or something, I'm like, I can't, it's hard for me to argue because he was fantastic for so long, but there's no way you could decipher that. Because like in my brain, I immediately think, what are the impact positions that people care about now? And it's like, the left tackle, the edge, the cornerback, and then I guess you want to throw in running back and receiver because it's easy to quantify those. But I think your team overall is most likely better with the top edge rusher than the top receiver, the top running back.
I thought you would go with someone more current because you're younger than me and Hench. Hench, are any of the current guys eligible, do you think, ultimately to at least get a name check when this conversation happens in, let's say, a decade? Anybody? Like Aaron Donald is retired now for a couple of years, but he might be in that like Justin Jefferson, maybe?
Okay. Look, obviously this is embarrassing for you guys. And I don't understand, like there's this edgelord thing on the internet and like with podcasting and like, I'm not going to say 2 + 2 is 4 because I'm too smart for that, man. I'm not going to take that vaccine. I'm too smart. So I'm going to say 2 + 2 is 7. Anthony Munoz would only be a slightly dumber answer than Lawrence Taylor to the fucking most obvious question in NFL history, which is Jerry Rice. There is no one, and you talk about like, are any contemporary players going to compare to Jerry Rice? We are in a run and gun league. When we talk about Wayne Gretzky, it's because he put up all those numbers at a time when it was easy to come by goals. Jerry Rice did not play in the run and gun era of 10 catches and 180 yards. He invented it. Jerry Rice's numbers in the non-passing era it's a joke to look at Jerry Rice and then like you mentioned Moss, it's like, okay, what did Moss's greatness produce as opposed to Jerry Rice? So obviously we started this argument last night. It's super embarrassing for the Lawrence Taylor argument that I even have to say this. So Lawrence Taylor won 2 Super Bowls. In the 2 Super Bowl seasons that the Giants, the 2 years they won the Super Bowl, he played in 6 games. He went 6-0. In those 6 games, he didn't have 6 sacks. He had half a sack. He had half a sack in 6 games as they won their 2 Super Bowls. You go, well, that's because they must have been double teaming him, or that's because they must have been chipping him, or maybe they had to run the opposite way. Yeah, they did all the things you can do to neutralize an edge rusher. Whereas the teams that said, don't let Jerry Rice beat us. That was the whole plan all week, leading up 2 weeks, leading up to the Super Bowl. Don't let Jerry Rice beat us. What did he do in those Super Bowls? He destroyed them. Jerry Rice in 4 Super Bowls has 33 catches for over 500 yards, not 4 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns. Jerry Rice wins Super Bowl MVP with 11 catches and 215 yards and a TD against the Bengals. His next 2 Super Bowls, where he doesn't win MVP, 3 touchdowns in each of those. If that weren't enough, what does Jerry Rice do as a final mic drop? He makes Rich Gannon a Super Bowl quarterback. He catches a touchdown from Rich Gannon in the Super Bowl. So Lawrence Taylor has a half a sack. By the way, in the Scott Norwood Super Bowl, right? What did Lawrence Taylor do on the biggest play of the game? He watched Scott Norwood miss a field goal. He did nothing. So in that
the
Super
biggest
Bowl,
play of the Niners win over the Bengals.
Super Bowl that is decided by Scott Norwood has.
Well, what about the John Taylor catch? Where was Jerry Rice on that catch?
Lawrence, I'm sure he had 3 guys on him. It's why John Taylor got the ball. Lawrence Taylor had 0 sacks.
I'm sure there were 3 guys blocking Lawrence Taylor.
Get this. In the Scott Norwood game, Lawrence Taylor has 1 tackle. He has 1 tackle, 0 sacks. So that's your guy in the biggest stage. Jerry Rice is destroying teams, personally destroying teams in the Super Bowl. In the 3 years that he wins the Super Bowl, he plays in 9 games. In those 9 games where they go 9-0, he has 56 catches for over 900 yards and 15 touchdowns. So we've got Lawrence Taylor with half a sack in the biggest games, 6 games of his career. We've got Jerry Rice with 15 touchdowns in the biggest 9 games of his career. Like, you don't sound edgy or clever or cool when you answer this question.
No, it just sounded right. Because he changed the game. And Jerry Rice was throwing the ball to him by Joe Montana and had Bill Walsh, who invented the West Coast offense, who revolutionized the game. Like, you're a product of your quarterback. So
look, who knows
because we're looking at a small sample size.
The game was Bill Walsh, not Jerry Rice. Witness the
if
fact
he played
that
on the Detroit Lions, he wouldn't be Jerry Rice. He wouldn't be Jerry Rice, but in the Detroit Lions, Lawrence Taylor created for himself. Like,
I should go back to my pro football.
Who got him to the Super Bowl? Who got the Giants Super Bowl?
West Coast offense has existed for 40 years. I should go back to my pro football reference page and see all the other guys who put up Jerry Rice numbers.
Listen. Don't you play that game with me. I thought it's the same thing as people who want to point at Gretzky's numbers for why 99 is better than 66. It's more nuanced than that. I'm not saying Wayne Gretzky's a bum. I'm just saying he's not as good as the guy who I'm saying. Jerry Rice is an all-time great, but he benefits.
Wow, what a concession.
You understand?
What a concession. He's an all-time great. He's the all-time greatest non-quarterback. It's not close. It's
Let me tell you something.
Rice,
a few
and
things.
Then a chasm, and then Anthony Munoz.
You're pointing,
then Lawrence
since
Taylor.
you're pointing to the biggest game and his performance in those biggest games, the guys throwing him the ball in most of those games, at least, Rich Gannon notwithstanding, are two of not just Hall of Famers, two of the very best quarterbacks ever, Joe Montana and Steve Young, and Bill Walsh's West Coast offense, and Jerry Rice is drafted in 1985. Like I say, the Niners were plenty successful, much like Kyle Shanahan wanted to upgrade. They have this machine of an offense, but he saw the opportunity to upgrade it with CMC. That's what Bill Walsh saw in Jerry Rice. We're humming already, but imagine if we drop this cat into it. He had the vision to do that. Jerry Rice, fulfilled and exceeded, I'm sure, anything Bill Walsh expected. Now, if you want to talk about those Super Bowls, and the Giants and how he played within those games and get it. The New York Giants get to Super Bowls in an era. They get the Super Bowls with Phil Simms and with Jeff Hostetler, the competition in the conference. To your point 20 minutes ago about how Aaron Rodgers at 42 is going to get through a conference that includes Mahomes and Burrow and Allen and Lamar. The Giants did get through a conference that included Montana and Steve Young and Troy Aikman some of the time, and whoever Joe Gibbs was making into a Hall of Fame level QB at the time, and so on. And the 46. Lawrence Taylor, who are the Hall of Famers on that defensive unit? Who are the dominant forces on those Giants teams that were real good from about 85-ish, the year before? If Sean Landeta doesn't whiff the ball in Soldier Field, they might go to the Super Bowl that year too. Who are you pointing to? Who are you attributing that success to as a player, if not Lawrence Taylor on those Giants teams? This is an edge rusher. I know it's a different era, and you probably couldn't get carried to a Super Bowl by an edge rusher in 2025, but still, it's remarkable to have that happen when it was happening with the high-end offensive individuals and offensive units that were out there, that Lawrence Taylor was almost, I don't want to go too far and say he was single-handedly doing it. Those linebackers, Carl Banks and Harry Carson and
Jim Burt
the
playing the
defensive
line
front and all those guys. But still, this was not the steel curtain defense populated by all generational legend.
Of the 31 times Jim Kelly dropped back to pass in that Super Bowl against the Giants, he was only sacked once. It was by Leonard Marshall. Don't pretend like Lawrence Taylor was doing it himself. Like, that defense was loaded. Also, how dare you, just because you use the same inflection to say Phil Simms and Jeff Hostetler, those are not the same guy. Okay, the Hostetler thing is super impressive. Phil Simms is in the fucking Hall of Fame. He went 22 for 25.
Phil Simms is not in no Hall of Fame except for completing 21 of 22 or whatever it was in that Super Bowl.
22 of 25. How dare you? Spaghetti, I'm sticking up for your guy.
The Phil McConkey.
So you say, well, it's a system, and then Joe Montana and Steve Young. Go ahead. I don't know if you have the internet, but go ahead and go to YouTube and watch Jerry Rice's touchdowns against the Chargers to open that Super Bowl, and against the Broncos to open the next or the earlier Super Bowl. And Mason Rudolph could have made those throws. He destroys guys so completely. It's like, it's not Joe Montana and Steve Young are not making Jerry Rice. They are enjoying the very easy job of throwing the ball to a guy who never drops the ball and is always open.
Listen, I hear your point, but before Bill Parcells arrives in New York, Lawrence Taylor, the team isn't great, but he is already a dominant force by the time Bill Parcells joins on with the Gents. Jerry Rice joins a high-functioning machine that, for what it matters, and it should matter. And the gap between, I get the numbers, Jerry Rice's stats blow Randy Moss's out of the water. But if you talk to guys who played against both, there are plenty of NFL DBs who say, oh, I think Randy Moss was the tougher cover. It's a little bit tough because there's a little bit of a generational thing there. Jerry Rice's best days didn't overlap with Randy Moss's, but there are plenty of guys who were kind of around both of them who say Randy Moss was tougher. Lawrence Taylor begat Andre Tippett and any number of other guys. I mean, like the 3-4 versus the 4-3. Actually, the Steelers are the ones who start doing that, but that being a useful defense across the NFL, I think there's some case to be made that Lawrence Taylor informs the rest of the league that this might be the way to go if you have a dynamic performer like that. I think, I don't know that makes Lawrence Taylor better, but he did redefine what that position could do. That has to count for something, right?
But I just say
it's like Nirvana.
It's obviously been proven over and over and over again that it is easier to game plan for a dominant edge rusher, although apparently teams were just covering TJ Watt one-on-one for the last 6 weeks of last season, and he still couldn't penetrate the line of scrimmage. But you can chip him, you can double, the tight end can hit him. There are just things you can do. Obviously, the teams in the Super Bowl trying to game plan for Jerry Rice, there was nothing you could do. Okay, we're going to go zone. He's going to run a shallow cross, catch the ball, and turn it upfield. You can meet him in the end zone. By the way, don't take it from me or anybody else who knows anything about football. Ask your bros who know football history. Who do you respect the most? There's nobody who knows what they're talking about is going to say anything but Jerry Rice to this answer.
Oh, I don't know about that. I know that wouldn't be the response.
Oh, you're going to ask Darius Slay? Yes, Darius Slay. Hey, who's a tougher cover? These fucking guys don't know anything about football history. Who's Jerry Rice?
Listen, as I've said about Jerry Rice, the same thing that ails him is what dings Eric Dickerson. If you're a young person and you put on their highlights, it looks too easy. They have that upright retro running style. It doesn't look. They don't look as dynamic as Lawrence Taylor does as a guy coming off the edge.
Fat. What's the fucking point? It's like you're dominating on a level beyond human possibility.
I'm not holding that against Jerry Rice. I'm saying that video doesn't do him justice. If you go back and watch him, it doesn't resonate the way LT does, which is this visceral viciousness kind of stuff. Like Jerry Rice looks like he's out for a run, running away from everybody. But also spiritually, we've talked about this. I like Shaq. I think Shaq, I get the commitment to the craft and all that kind of stuff that Kobe Bryant did and people admire so much. But Shaq was like, work out a lot. I'm already dominant. I want to enjoy my life. Lawrence Taylor was doing that while Jerry Rice was running up sandhills his whole career, which is Mario Lemieux was burning nails in between games. I like that kind. Mickey Mantle enjoyed his life. Well,
that's a better argument for you guys.
Still, for most of it, he enjoyed it.
That's a separate category. That's a good argument for you guys. Best player who sacrificed nothing in his personal life.
That's Bunyan-esque. That's what's good. That's what you want, isn't it?
Ladies, I gotta go. I gotta get to the stadium in half an hour. For pregame? No, for kickoff.
Tom Brady is admirable to people who have marginal talents. Like you can close that gap by working real hard and just focusing on that. But the tall tale figures are the ones who just show up and dominate you, whether they're trying hard or not.
That's great. Is funny. And obviously LT, changed the rules of training camp too, when he had the 3.5 sacks on opening day without any training camp. It is funny when you're like, hey, we're going to need the QB room to study game film. We're going to need the wide receivers to understand how they're playing the shell. We're going to, here where the seams are. You're going to and LT is like, I'm just going to go kill that quarterback. I'm not going to watch it. It's a position where you need no prep whatsoever. You're like, I'm just going to whip my guy every time. It's like, okay, go get him.
Right. But if it were limited to just Shaq physical domination kind of stuff from LT against an overmatched 300-pound guy, trying to block him, but he also would intercept the ball. I mean, he was a complete linebacker. It wasn't like he was just cut loose on third downs to go get the quarterback. And by the way, with those sack totals outside of the Niners, teams weren't throwing the ball nearly as much. The Niners were, and that is Jerry Rice certainly benefit. I'm not saying the Niners don't benefit, obviously, from Jerry Rice.
I love when you stumble into my argument and you're like, oh, fuck.
But Jerry Rice
went down a dark alley and now I'm making Hench's point.
What if Jerry Rice went to the Giants? Would he be Jerry Rice? Would Lawrence Taylor be Lawrence Taylor if he had gone to the Niners? Aha! I found it late, Spaghetti. I found the argument, right?
That's what I said about, like, if Jerry Rice was like in a Barry Sanders situation, if he was put on like the Detroit Lions with like whoever was quarterback, Harbaugh, Mitchell, whatever. It's like, I'm not saying he wouldn't be great. And I think also the NFL, this is just a hard question because it's not baseball. It's not you're a batter, you're a pitcher. Hockey, it's like you're a skater, you're a goalie. I mean, I guess defense, whatever. But like it's way easier to quantify who is NBA the easiest. I just think NFL, it's like everyone does a specific thing. I just think it's a group of players. Like Rice, the best receiver of all time, not going to argue that. Best edge rusher, it's going to be LT. But if you want to throw in a Sweetness, you want to throw in whoever the best middle linebacker is, like who changed defenses and the way the offenses had to attack. Like I'm okay with my answer is basically Switzerland. It's like if you throw out a bunch of guys and I think they're the best at their position, I'm not gonna poo-poo
That's
that.
fair. Bobby Orr versus Mario Lemieux is a tough, or Patrick Waugh versus Alex Ovechkin is an impossible debate to have. And yet we just had a decent one. Go ahead, Hench.
For the record, if you swap out Phil McConkey for Jerry Rice, Phil Simms goes 27 for 25 in that Super Bowl.
All right, listen. The other thing, it is striking to me, at least, that the quarterbacks set aside, there are more good quarterbacks now than you could almost wonder. I'm trying to think. There are more great quarterbacks, Hall of Fame quarterbacks now, probably with the possible exception of the 90s, playing right now than there were at any other time. I'm surprised that there isn't a non-QB that we can collectively agree on. Like, oh yeah, he might go down as the greatest at his position ever. This is the most popular sport by far and away in these United States, and not one guy out there is in the running to go down as the best at his position ever. It doesn't feel like there's anybody who's eligible for that award, with, like I say, with the exception of Patrick Mahomes right now. Another assignment for the next time we talk is, I was thinking about this as I get into the history, is what is the greatest assemblage of talent in one game ever? I know we've talked about Cowboys Steelers, but I was trying to think about that a little bit. If we've seen a game in more recent vintage that might challenge that one. In the meantime, let's wrap it up here. I can't believe we've already talked for an hour here. A lot of belly aching here. Hench, the Florida Panthers, as we wrap it up here, anything standing in the way of that being the dynasty of the NHL? And does it transcend just the next couple weeks here? Who's getting in their way?
I mean, they're so built for it. We talk all year about the regular season versus the playoffs. It's a different sport. Everything's tighter, everything's more physical, and then they just roll those lines at you. I mean, everybody knows their job. Everybody does their job. They're like, each guy is like 3% better than the other guy. And it's just like over 60 minutes, it just wears on you. And, they're so structurally sound and they're just built for the playoffs. So, unless Skinner or Otter, if the Stars come back, just stand on their head, it's like they're going to wear you down. They just
kick the shit out of you is what they do. Yeah. They're high skill, but they really beat the hell out of you, but good. What is striking to me is the Oilers could still get them, but the Panthers have gone to another level because of what they just did to the Carolina Hurricanes. It was George Foreman against Joe Frazier. They're the same fighter, and one just annihilated the other one. They're doing the exact, trying to do the same things against each other, and one just was way more effective at bludgeoning the other one. So it's not to say Edmonton can't get the cup here. It's going to be, but that is Ali. I mean, that is Ali versus Frazier. So I'm looking forward to.
I mean, when a series goes 7 games, like the Maple Leaf series, or even the Nuggets Thunder series, it's like it feels like it was a close series. But if you flip the switch and just destroy that team in Game 7, it wasn't in doubt. Like, I mean, the Panthers did not give the Leafs a chance to believe that with a lucky bounce they would win Game 7. Like, they just did that thing where they're like, you're going to get nothing all night. So, I'm with you. I think, Spaghetti and Florida can keep that cup for the foreseeable future.
The hockey hotbed down here. Places I've been coming here since I was born. Like, my grandparents got this place I'm currently in the mid '80s, and there's places that I've never seen affiliated with hockey, and now they have like Panther stuff up. I was like, oh, that's interesting, because I don't remember you having that when like it was Olli Jokinen and like Roberto Luongo. But the Panthers made the blueprint for how to build a playoff hockey team, which is obviously strong goaltending, depth at defense, and tough defender that make sure you get clear the crease, and then having these massive forwards. And Shek, you made a good point with like the Evan Rodriguez thing, shout out BU, but like guys that may have been middle six or borderline top six for other teams, they'll come to Florida and be on the bottom six, but they're clearly above that, and they play so well, and they play those crucial minutes, and they're just good, an all around good game. And it's just when you have Bob, who's 36 and somehow having this like second career resurgence where he like looks like he's in his prime. It's just hard to beat that team. And like, yeah, like, if it is the Oilers, like could the Oilers win? Sure. I don't think they could win the series in anything less than 7 games. And that's purely because they have 2 of the best 3 to 4 players in the whole entire NHL, with McDavid, who's still my number 1. And you have Draisaitl, who's been fantastic. And I'm floored that Dallas is in the position they're in, because Dallas built, like, they did the model, like they did the Panthers model in a different conference, and it just didn't work. And it didn't work because you have guys like Hintz and Robo and Ben, who just are not performing the way you want them to perform, and Ottinger's doing his best to keep them in it, and they have a good defensive group. But Florida just has everything, and some teams, my Rangers kind of built, they had the mindset of building a team the similar way as the Panthers. And I guess and now with the Stars example, some teams it just works and you get this far. Some teams like my Rangers, they just, you don't even make the playoffs. And the Panthers, they just got the right guys, and they just have a great front office who they just find guys that were kind of castaways, and they play out of their minds. Obviously having guys like Barkov and Kachuk, who are all class players, who are just fantastic to have. And then when you have Bob, who's a Hall of Fame goaltender, it's like they're going to be good for a bunch of more years. And
look at their cap situation.
Right, they're going to be
they're
really
not
good.
going anywhere.
Paul Maurice is beloved.
They're going to be around.
Paul Maurice is one of the best coaches around. He's beloved, and I'm also shocked the Leafs even took him to 7. And I totally agree with him. Like, they went 7, but to me it wasn't close, because the Leafs, like, they saw how the Panthers were winning, and they go, we don't need that blueprint. We're going to go with shaky goaltending, not a great defensive group, and just a super top-heavy team that have no playoff guts. These guys do not have balls. Like, Mitch Marner, like, he hurt his bottom line basically when he's going to go somewhere else and get paid, because like people are like, yeah, you'll be all right for the first 82, but when it comes to the postseason, what are you going to do there? Like, the funniest thing about him was like when he had that speech all fired up, is like, you can't yell at your teammates when your hair is dry. You got to have wet hair. You got to be sweating. You got to be working. And it's weird that like it's happening in Sunrise, Florida, and I'm a very big like grow the game. Like, I don't care if Canada wins, because the game doesn't need to grow there. The game does need to grow currently where I am, and they're doing that. And I hate them because they're in the Eastern Conference and they beat my team. But
they're gonna choke out all the Canadian teams, though. Who's ever gonna want to go there again? It is, I mean, the quintessential moment, if you're a Florida Panthers fan in this little era right now, had to be Aho cheap shotting Bennett, and then in the next game, your main man Matthew Tkachuk beating up on Aho. That was great stuff. You had to flip for that. That's like Wayne Gretzky. He once tried to beat up Neil Broughton. That's about as close as I can get there.
When you look at these horses, like when Barkov, like when you're that big, you're that physical, you're that committed to the physical game, you should be giving something up. Like, okay, he's physical, but he's a step slow. He's not, like you're that big, that physical, And then you watch that dangle where he came off the goal line last night and just teed up. I forget who it was, Bennett or Reinhardt or Verhaeghe. They all fucking blend together. But like he basically just did everything to get his guy a tap in at the far post. And you're like, oh, right. Barkov's super skilled. I forgot that part. While he and Tkachuk are just knocking the snot out of people, they can just, on a dime, they can just become these playmakers. So,
monsters too. They're like, as you say, it really is something to look at.